And welcome. We are back live, MASKast. It seems like it's going to be a MASKast week for a while. But wanted to just again say hello and welcome. Obviously, on the other end of the mic or camera, you'll see Jason,
Hello.
my fellow agents of M.A.S.K and counterpart and criminal mastermind and the
I
whole
have no
nine
warrants outstanding. No warrants outstanding
that we know of.
that you know of.
But yeah, it's been an awesome week with a lot of news, and we're going to be getting into it. But first, we want to introduce our other fellow agents of M.A.S.K. We have Bill Ferries from MatTracker.com.
Hey guys.
Hey, Bill.
And Erik Tukey from BoulderHill.net.
Happy to be here as always.
They're both so enthused.
I am. I'm excited. I have so much to talk about.
Even with the air conditioner off, you're still enthusiastic there.
I am. Hey, it's like 100 degrees here every day. Cut me some slack.
Well, we were trying, but you turned off the air conditioner, so it's your fault. So anyway, we want to get right to it. Obviously, our discussion really is going to be revolved around Revolution, as well as kind of some insights with our M.A.S.K comic series that seems to be coming down the pike, and a potential cinematic universe. So, gentlemen, are we ready?
It's going to happen. It's going to happen, not potential.
I'm optimistic. I'm potentially optimistic. Whatever. So anyway, let's go ahead and start our MASKast chat. Jason, let's go.
Okay, well, actually, before we get into the comic books, I wanted to give each of the guys the floor to share what's going on over at their site. So let's roll with Bill first.
Thanks, Jason. Not too much right now. We're kind of remaining status quo. I am looking for a couple different variations of a different layout for the website. You know me, I can't stay stagnant too long with it. But one thing that's going to be upcoming, I'm going to be doing my second part chat with Doug Stone in the next week or so, and then I'll get that up live. We're going to be talking about some of the new news and the news about some of the original cast appearing at Comic-Con, so that's pretty neat.
Cool. Yeah, I'm anxious to hear a little bit about their side of it and how it all came together. If you guys hadn't listened, we did a chat just a few days ago with Bill Higa, who put that all together, and looks like it's going to be a real fun time down there at San Diego Comic-Con. The lucky buggers that have already secured tickets, because I'm pretty sure it's sold out by now.
Oh,
So,
that thing sells out pretty much the day they
It's
go
like-
on sale.
Right. Well, cool. I'm looking forward to that, Bill. And go check out his YouTube channel, MatTracker.com. That's where he has the Behind the Mask podcasts. And looking forward to hearing from Doug Stone.
Yep.
And then what's happening over at BoulderHill.net there, Mr. Tukey?
A lot like Bill, kind of just waiting. You know, we have a lot of teasers coming, but a lot of the definitive information's not out there yet. I've been talking with Tommy Lee Edwards a little bit, who is, for anyone who doesn't know, he's doing some of the variant covers on the upcoming M.A.S.K series, so I'm not sure if how much he's allowed to or interested in revealing or sending my way, but he's a really nice guy no matter what, and been very friendly, so I'm hoping that maybe that'll turn into something cool.
Cool.
And otherwise, just kind of keeping an eye on the news, and it just seems we just keep getting little teasers, which is cool, because this is the first time in so long where they're real teasers for something real, so I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah, official stuff, which is neat.
Right.
Cool. Well, we'll be looking forward to what you can get up there on Boulder Hill. I see you've already petitioned him for some of the original drawings, so.
I asked. I haven't gotten a reply on that one. We'll see.
Well, yeah, he seems like a very personable guy, and he is interacting with fans over on Twitter. So
He's
that's
very
cool.
active on Twitter, yeah.
Quick shout out to Vaughn and Philip and Chad, who have already loaded up some questions for us, and we'll get to those in a little bit. But let's go ahead and dive in to what was really a surprise to me, which is the Revolution comic book that was announced back in June 1st through Entertainment Weekly. IDW actually kind of had a cryptic image that they posted on several of their social media sites about the Revolution coming, and then on June 1st we got the formal announcement, and it's going to be this 5-issue bi-weekly event that's beginning in September. It's going to include Transformers, G.I. Joe, M.A.S.K, Micronauts, ROM, and Action Man that we know of for sure. And then from what some of the information has said, it will contain the origin of the new M.A.S.K series that Brandon Easton is writing. So just this week we've got some variant covers that came out for issue 1 through comicbookresources.com, and then we also got the complete schedule, at least for the September releases, for Revolution and some of the other one-offs that will be produced with Revolution, which M.A.S.K will get its own one-off. I guess even getting into some more origin outside of the actual story for the Revolution. So anyway, go over to Comic Book Resources and check out those articles and the artwork. But let's throw it over to Wyatt and tell me what you think about this Revolution concept and some of the images and such you've seen.
I think it has a lot of potential. I know we've discussed when Hasbro initially said something about a M.A.S.K or an actual universe that they came up with.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be honest, I'm a little skeptic. Not that it can't blend well, but I guess I've known M.A.S.K to only really slightly enter into G.I. Joe world.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of where it left. So I'm open, but I'm hesitant, I guess is the right way to put it, into seeing what this Revolution will be. But looking at the artwork, it's really impressive, and I like it's not very great, but I like the detail. What little I can see of like Rhino and Thunderhawk, they've modernized them a little bit, but they still kept
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the classic look there. The same with Optimus Prime and a few others there. I'm not a big comic fan. I wish I could get into it, but at the same time, I'm looking forward to this, and I want to see what this does. I want to see how this plays out and how they develop this world that they've created.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and again, these are just the covers, so we really haven't seen any what's actually going to be inside the book. But these variants, I mean, they look really cool. Mr. Ferris.
Well, I mean, I posted something to you guys the other day where I was, I was saying that I was kind of confused.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that we were breaking off into, well, we get an origin story in this Revolution, and then M.A.S.K gets the origin story of a new M.A.S.K in the Revolution series.
Mm-hmm.
So I was a bit confused by it. But picture this too. To go backwards a little bit on what Wyatt was just saying. He couldn't really see anything with maybe M.A.S.K only being like with G.I. Joe, but when you were younger, you secretly had Transformers, fighting alongside M.A.S.K.
Right.
And while it may have been hard for G.I. Joe to fight alongside M.A.S.K, you found a way to do it. Whether or not you had Sergeant Slaughter hanging out a Rhino and going wherever the hell he was going, but you always had that that premise of kind of combining everything, and to take all these popular, and not as popular entities, and using Transformers and GI Joe as the flagship to move these along. Well, that's a pretty good idea, and we got to be realists too. We know that Mask is and still is was and still is obscure, but it still has its place in our childhoods and everybody else's childhood.
Right.
To put it alongside these other entities, I think it's a great idea. I'm a little wary. Like you say that the covers, we don't know what's underneath, but from my experience with comic books, the cover usually entails what you're seeing inside. Now, unless these are just special covers, I kind of think that that Revolution series is what you're going to see from the covers. I think that's what you're going to see inside. I think they're going to take a straightforward approach to the old entities and combine them into a series. I just get kind of confused on the M.A.S.K series and how that kind of ties into it. The standalone M.A.S.K series, and we can get in that later. But I know there's a lot of fans that are kind of off put by what they've seen so far of the new series. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. I mean, I'm excited that there's new things. I don't care what they are, to be honest. I'm just really, really happy that Hasbro, IDW, and whatever other entity out there is putting these things together, and I just can't wait to see what's next.
Right.
Cool. All right, Mr. Tukey, you have the floor, sir. What do you think of Revolution and what you've seen so far?
Well, it's a lot of different things coming in. We've got a number of different covers by different artists, different styles. Most of the variant covers seem to be more influenced by the original M.A.S.K series and artwork in terms of the look of the characters and their uniforms. The vehicles seem to be a little bit more also in that vintage area, although they have been modernized a little bit, but still I would say that the variant covers are mostly playing off of the original stuff, whereas, and this is what people are kind of getting up in arms about, and Bill kind of touched on it, I don't know if it's concept art exactly, but the early art that Tony Vargas released of it's the headshots, mostly the headshot of Matt, but it's Matt, Brad, and Julio Lopez. Those are definitely different takes, and my first instinct. Oh, sorry, what?
No, I said the same thing when I saw Julio. You just had this long sigh, and I was like, what's Julio doing there?
Mm-hmm.
And he's so second or third tier, so that's one thing.
Yeah.
To me, the thing that was kind of dulled my reaction a lot of people, I would say there are kind of two. Sadly, these are the only two camps I've seen. There are people who are upset or disappointed, and then there's the group who is kind of just like, well, let's wait and see, because pictures of characters aren't really enough to tell me if this is good or not. I'm more in that second group. My biggest thing is that the art looks really rough. It looks really unpolished, and to me, that makes me think that stuff is really early in terms of the process that was going on, and I don't know how definitively representative that is. I don't know. It just doesn't look like final product. It looks like something that they asked Tony, like, let's start designing these characters with these new ideas in mind, and this was something that was halfway through the process or something. They're very clearly, the poses of the characters are like display model shots. They're not scenes out of a a comic page there. They're just to display the character from head to toe. So I feel like we're probably not looking at completely final versions. I'm sure we'll probably spend a lot of this time talking about the change to matte. I will go really quickly to say that the Venom pictures that were released were a lot less different than the original source. Miles, Sly, and Vanessa all looked pretty close. I mean, look, it shouldn't be exactly the same. It's not 1985 anymore, so I do want to see some changes. I don't know.
Agreed.
I'm happy to start talking about those character changes, but I'll let someone else take a moment.
Wait, it's not 1985?
No, put your Trapper Keepers away and take off those neon short shorts, Bill.
All right, I will.
Well, back to the Revolution comic. Again, I was pleasantly surprised when I first heard about it because it just kind of blindsided me that we were going to get essentially the cinematic universe before before the cinematic universe, you know, because several of the, except for Transformers and I think Action Man.
I don't remember
G.I.
Action.
Joe. I'm sorry.
I don't even remember Action Man. I mean, I've looked it up, but I don't think I had that when I was younger.
No, I didn't remember that one at all. But
Catchy title.
Yeah, it's sort of, you know, the cinematic universe before we get it. So I'm curious to see how they're going to blend all these together, and then how that's going to affect when they start or when they release the movie schedule. That's what I'm kind of waiting for as far as the cinematic universe goes. But I'm looking forward to Revolution. I'm glad they're using an origin story. You know, we never really got that with the original series. We got a little bit in that mini comic, you know, but it's nice that they're starting it at least from a definitive point, and we're not just trying to pick up, you know, where both M.A.S.K and Venom exist. So I'm looking forward to how they do that, and I would invite everybody to go over. I think I posted it both on our Facebook and Twitter, but there is a YouTube video through CBR that interviews basically all the writers of Revolution and what they currently write and how they're, you know, kind of coming into this story. It was really cool, and just to meet them and see what their history was with each franchise and their background and such. So it's a very diverse group, and it's just gonna, I think, even carry over to the pages even more and show that. So I'm really looking forward to these. The artwork's been great on them, and again, we don't know if it's going to be exactly what's inside, but you know, when you see Thunderhawk flying over Snake Eyes, you got me hooked.
I'm interested to see how much, because they could very easily do a Revolution story that doesn't have necessarily a lot of story to it, if that makes sense. It's very easy to just plunk those groups together fighting the bad guys, and you don't have to tell specifics of their background more than these are good guys and good military, good robots, okay, and bad guys. Whereas I feel like the M.A.S.K comic, they're going to have to do that a little bit more. They're going to tell us where M.A.S.K started. My biggest thing that I guess I'm not totally in love with is the character bio they gave for Matt for the new upcoming series. I really don't care about his ethnicity at all. You know, I mean, yes, he was originally Caucasian, but frankly, let's look at all 1980s cartoons, and really even a lot of them going today, and there is an overwhelming representation of white guys. So it's cool. We can bring someone else. But the description of Matt is weird. It makes him sound temperamental, and I don't know. Like, he doesn't. It's not that the personality itself is bad, but he has an odd personality to be the leader of M.A.S.K. He doesn't have. You know, the leader should be smart, maybe level-headed, charismatic, and inspiring. And this guy, he sounds like an introvert with a temper who's easily manipulated. I'm like, that's not. I don't want to
Sounds
follow
a lot
that
like
guy.
Mr. T.
A lot like what?
Sounds a lot like Mr. T.
Yeah. And how well? I mean, he was not the leader of the A team, so.
Well, I definitely want to give everybody a chance to comment on that. Let me quickly just go through the timeline on the individual Mask series that's coming out. We got the formal announcement back on May 2nd, and that was through USA Today. It's going to be publishing in November of this year. The writers Brandon Easton, artist Tony Vargas, and then the cover artist, like we mentioned, was Tommy Lee Edwards. And I invite some people just to go out and hear some of these interviews that Brandon and Tony have given, that USA Today article, and then on the Nerd for a Living podcast, and just this past week on the Geekscape podcast, Brandon was on there, and also there was an article on CBR that interviewed them both. So you can dive pretty good into where they're coming from in this quote-unquote Fast and Furious almost world that Brandon says or style that he wants to get into. But just to go off of what Erik was saying, here's a little quote about Matt and his background. The loss of his father at a young age sent Matt sprawling into grief, and because he couldn't handle his emotional pain, he became a bit of a delinquent. However, he was always smart enough to know how to work the system. Right before the mask training begins, he gets himself into some serious trouble, so he had little choice but to join the boot camp. A core part of this series will be
Not the premise of Police Academy?
A core part of this series will be to chronicle Matt's growth from an insecure recruit to the resolute leader of M.A.S.K. Our version of Mayhem is much smarter, much more respected, and incredibly dangerous.
And 90 years old.
The best way I can describe their relationship is to think of Denzel and Gene Hackman from the submarine thriller Crimson Tide. These men respect each other because of a shared worldview, but beyond that, when Matt gets in the way of Mayhem's grand design, things go south quickly, unquote. So that's directly from Easton in one of the, I think it was that was from the CBR interview. So, Wyatt, let me get your reaction to Matt and kind of the direction it sounds like he's going into for the series.
Well, like Erik, the ethnicity doesn't bother me, but there's a part of me that's kind of the original person. If you make them one person, just follow through. But again, this is a whole new era, a whole new audience that Hasbro is trying to capture, as well as IDW. So I'm not really that upset about it. But like Erik, the background, the character that they're building on or trying to place on Matt, completely the opposite of what it seems what we grew up as Matt Tracker. He was a very peaceable. He had a temper now and then. Usually focused more on Scott than anybody else. But nonetheless, it was. I would call it a justified anger, like we all do when something's not going our way or whatever.
Going back now, come on, there are a couple episodes where you're wondering why he doesn't take Scott over his knee and spank him a couple times.
Very
true.
That's a troublemaking kid.
So is his robot, but as we digress.
Yeah.
No, I guess I'm just displaced about how they're making this character of Matt. At the same time, I just want to see what actually is going to be filtered out, if that's the right word, and what we're actually going to see in this end product, wherever it may be. The comic books, perhaps later on, like we hope, some kind of movie or something later down the road. I just want to see what's going to happen. I'm trying to keep a level head, if at all possible, but like I said, I'm a little disappointed how they wrote the character.
Well, I think you're right in the fact that it appears it's almost the polar opposite of what Matt Tracker was in the cartoon series. He was the rich entrepreneur and essentially the Donald Trump almost of his time,
Oh.
And
with better hairdos.
okay, maybe not. Maybe that wasn't the best, but you know what I'm saying. And that's the main thing that I noticed when I'm looking at the Mask team now is the age kind of range that at least they appear to be in. You know, we're used to having the older, kind of sophisticated Matt, and the agents, maybe save for Dusty, were, you know, 30s, 40s, maybe somewhere in there. Hondo was the school teacher. You know, he's, you know, a little bit older. But
Brad might have been a little bit younger, right?
Well, yeah, Brad, you know, being the rock star, yeah. But these guys look like almost fresh out of high school. So it's going to be interesting how they really set up the team. And that's probably why they're doing these offshoots of Revolution, like for Matt. I think they're doing M.A.S.K and ROM and I think Micronauts. Those are probably the three more obscure. Well, and they didn't. Action Man, who knows what they're going to do with that? But they're the more obscure ones compared to Transformers, G.I. Joe, and they might just need to tell a little bit more story to get people invested moving forward. I mean, they've already released comics for Micronauts and ROM, and I think reading from that interview, ROM number 3 might have some Revolution Origins, which is going to be released, I think, that month. But anyway, back to the character design. I'll pass it to Bill. Bill, what's your? I know you said you had some concerns that you wrote there on the website.
Well, it's not just Matt. It's other characters as well. And just to stay, I mean, if we're just talking about Matt, well, to go back to my original concerns, if this Revolution is going to tell an origin story of the new Mask, which is kind of what we talked about a little bit, well, how is Matt Tracker African American in the in this Revolution story, and then like what's the telling of this? What's the timeline? Is Matt Tracker? There's a couple things that don't make sense, that don't add up right away. And again, like you guys, I don't really care about what ethnicity Matt is, or male or female. It doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is storytelling. And so far as you guys pointed out, we kind of see a giant plot hole in what we're reading and what we're seeing from the initial concepts. And my biggest thing still is, well, there's a couple of things. One, Matt looks like he's 18 years old. Miles Mayhem looks like he's, I joked that he's looked like he's in his 90s, but he does look like he's in his 70s. And why are we using Julio Lopez when you have other characters that I could appeal? If you're trying to reach a different audience, that's great. What about Bruce, Dusty? Like these guys here, Hondo. Like these guys here are all characters that had little. They were prominent, but they had little story to them.
Yeah.
And Julio Lopez was in 6 episodes or whatever he was, and then he's some boring doctor who, just randomly comes in. And
he was a pediatrician. Everybody loves a kid's doctor.
Well, you know what I mean. Nobody really had any. I mean, and Firefly was probably my one of my second favorite vehicles personally for me, but I didn't care for the character of Julio Lopez just because there was so little of him in the cartoon. I don't know.
His character was boring. His personality was very flat. There were a lot of agents in the show that were just flat and tons. I mean, the personality of Julio Lopez was the same as the personality of Jacques LaFleur, was the same as the personality of all those third string. They were just good guy agents.
Yeah.
But
the Vada was flat. So basically, everybody from the later parts of the series into the racing series were flat characters, to be honest.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, the original cast, even Alex, being an older character, he had a lot of personality.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
So there are things that I have concerns about. But I'm also, again, I'm excited about the possibilities. And
Yeah.
my name, the name of my website, mattracker.com, bears the biggest bullseye. What everybody's arguing about right now is mass race. And I don't understand that in today's world. I do and I don't. But that shouldn't matter. We should be really more concerned about good storytelling, to be honest, and to make sure that we, the fans who have stuck by this for years, get a good story out of this, and and just get what we deserve to see, and that's Mask back and done right.
One thing.
Let me interject something really quick because I've listened to pretty much every interview that Brandon Easton has done, and there was a certain mandate, I believe, from Hasbro, and then he formulated his story around some mandates, and then so there's some stuff, and there's some stuff that's directed right at him, and I think that's wrong at this point, like you guys are saying. Give him a chance to tell the story first before you criticize. And I think the other main issue with people who are upset now is M.A.S.K was such a diverse group across the board, and we all knew that you can't necessarily do those characters in today's world with all the PC stuff, and it's fine. And as far as Julio goes, to me, he's the least concerned to me out of all of those, just because he was in like 6 episodes. We don't know much about him.
You don't care what they do to him.
Right, so they can bring him. Yeah, they can make him younger. They can do a whole different story, or at least come up with an original story that we never knew.
Why can't he still keep the bad mustache?
But that's the thing where people are like, well, we had Hondo. Why does Matt need to be African American? Well, I don't know. And Brandon has said that there's a reason for that, and that it'll essentially be revealed once we get into the story. And it seems more logical for him to be African American.
Maybe they go the route of this being Matt Tracker Jr.
I don't know. What were you gonna say, Eric?
Scott's not in this at all. So maybe this is Matt's son.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Right, well, one thing is that it looks like we probably won't get Hondo if they're like co-opting the African American character, and I don't know. I mean, there's plenty of room for multiple African American. There's plenty of room for any ethnicity, and I think it would be a shame to lose Hondo, because I actually always thought he was a great character. He was probably one of the closest to being like a second in command, just in terms of the way his character was portrayed. He was very level-headed. They always said he was an expert in tactics and strategy. It's like, well, that's what a leader should have.
Exactly.
And so, and as much as his power blaster was kind of generic, there was something really cool about the fact that his mask was just that kind of visor. And I mean, I think everybody loves Firecracker and everybody loves Hurricane, those as well. And we've seen on Tommy Lee Edwards' variant cover, he's put Hurricane on there. So again, I don't know if that actually means anything. And one of the things I was going to say is that when they do these big events, sometimes they start the ball rolling on them so early that the story from Revolution and the story in the M.A.S.K comic may not really interact at all. Yeah. And they just, they'll just give them some really quick overviews. They'll say, hey, Revolution guys, you need to use these 5 characters, and they need to kind of look like this, and you can't kill any of them. And that's kind of like all they'll do.
That's what they did for Kenner. Kenner gave those mandates for the cartoon series too, or DIC. They had these books to work with, and you had to go with this. And these characters can't die. But you can kill anything else you want.
Right, and they do that with a lot of the other big superhero tie-ins, like that Batman and X-Men and all those superheroes. They'll have multiple books going. And you have Wolverine in 3 or 4 different comic books at the same time, and like he's doing totally different things, and they're just Wolverine stories, and they don't overlap, and they don't really make a difference to each other. And I'm wondering if that's a lot of what we're going to see with Revolution, is that Revolution and the Mask standalone series don't necessarily actually have anything to do with each other. Going back to Matt being younger, it does make sense if they're not including Scott and T-Bob. 19, 20, 21-year-old Matt is a lot less likely, and also a troublemaker, to adopt an 11-year-old, or did they ever get Scott's 12? Scott's like 11 or 12, right? I mean, that's
Right.
always
Somewhere
been in
around
that
there.
range. Yeah. So, I mean, if you're like kind of in trouble with the law and you're under 25, you're not going down and being like, I'd really like to adopt a 12-year-old who has,
Maybe you
Younger
need that
brother.
to keep,
It could be a
keep
younger
yourself
brother.
level-headed, you know?
I mean, yeah, there could be family members in the nice thing about M.A.S.K is that the sort of nature of it is that it does not dictate a lot of the actual people. It's a concept, good versus bad, using masks and transforming vehicles, but within that, everything else is kind of up in the air, and that I feel like that's a lot of what we're seeing now. And I'm sure that the reason that Julio Lopez is included is because they wanted to include Hispanics in the group, and they want to have more diversity. And that's one of the things that all four of us have always praised M.A.S.K for, is like, at a time when their diversity was only found in really terrible stereotypes, and although M.A.S.K suffers from it, I would argue that it was better than many.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Bruce's little Confucius sayings are kind of terrible, but he was not a sidekick. Bruce was a heavily relied on and valued member of M.A.S.K. He was not the comic relief.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was really cool. And Hondo was not, unfortunately, the African-American stereotype in 80s cartoons is kind of like the Mr. T character. You just have this big, strong, and usually not very intelligent character. And like I said before, Hondo was the exact opposite. Hondo was super level-headed, and he was one of the smartest guys on the team. So I do like that they are so far it looks like they're continuing to take something that like I'm proud of M.A.S.K for having that. Like, I don't have to defend M.A.S.K's diversity from a period when they're really, I mean, come on. The G.I. Joe was like the exact opposite, with Roadblock and Quick Kick and
G.I. Joe had it too. I mean, Spirit, he was the Nevada Rushmore of M.A.S.K. I mean, they had those stereotypes as well. So
yeah,
it was a different time, and that's what I'm really excited to see with the 4 images that we've gotten so far on M.A.S.K. And as far as the color schemes and the masks are a little bit different, but I think they still capture the essence of the originals, mainly Venom, I would say, out of both teams, just looking. And I like what they've done with Gloria. She has that kind of same hairstyle, kind of updated though. And the color schemes, Brad Turner, he does look a little bit like Iron Man, but you got the yellow and the purple, and I think they've captured them well enough that we know who they are without having their name beside them. So, if that was the case and we couldn't recognize them at all, I can see why people would be upset, but I don't see any reason to really.
What I really want to see more than the characters is I want to see
the vehicles
that are not just the cover artist versions, because I mean, I love what Tommy Lee Edwards has put out. I think he has done an amazing job, and I would actually love to see him do the full comic, but I want to see what vehicles are going to make it into the comic and what they're going to look like, and tell us, who's going to be in them. Is Matt going to be in a new Camaro. The new Camaro has a great throwback vibe to it, so I'd be fine with that. And, you know, if Dusty's character comes around again, well, the Jeep looks the same as it has for 50 years, so we're fine there. But then, like, Brad's motorcycle in the 80s, you don't find motorcycles that look like that anymore. And a lot of the other vehicles will not quite translate to the same. So I really want to see those, and I want to see if there's any radical departures. I mean, you know, we've changed Matt significantly. Are we going to change? Is Matt going to be driving around in a Honda Civic? Like, I mean, I was super disappointed.
I drive a Honda Civic. It fits perfectly.
I don't think that's going to happen. Come on.
But, come on.
As far as, well, think about Gloria and Julio. You know, Julio, what was that, almost like a dune buggy?
Yes.
And if they're going to be fast and furious down the street, you're not going to be, you're not going to have a dune buggy on your team. I'm sorry. So
when you get in the sand first.
Yeah, I don't mind them kind of doing something new with the vehicles, like for him and maybe even Gloria as well. You know, Porsches.
Wait, do you guys think they'll actually release Shark if the Toy Series comes out?
I hope so.
I think they will.
I actually petitioned Hasbro.
I just opened a new can of worms there. Sorry.
Yeah, well, I petitioned Hasbro today through Twitter after seeing these Comic-Con exclusives for Micronauts and
Visionaries.
The Visionaries Mighty Mugs. I was like, come on, can we get a Shark, or can we get Matt Tracker and Miles Mayhem on a Mighty Mug? You know, just give me some merch, man. I want some merch.
I know, and you know, we were planning to talk about those anyway. Those photos of their displays, the M.A.S.K stuff was all vintage. There was nothing new. I saw the board game and the lunchbox.
Now this is the licensing expo in Las Vegas.
Right.
Those were released too, and they had a huge display mainly on the Cinematic Universe properties. That was really cool.
But
you're right.
There was nothing new, which makes me think they haven't done it yet. You know, I really wonder. I feel like they're trying to convince us that they are farther along in development than they are on a lot of these things, because we haven't seen toy releases, and we haven't actually had any movie news. Yeah. Since they pretty much said, we'll make a movie. We promise. It'll happen. Just trust us. It's gonna happen. You know, it's been nothing. And
they're in the writing stages now, and you know, who knows how long that's going to take? Months.
Right. I mean, we don't even have a single person announced as in the cast. You know, think about usually when they tell you who they've cast, they have still a long way to go. Sure. And we haven't heard about a director on board. We don't even know anything except that they plan to make it, and it plans to be shared universe.
Well, it hasn't been released yet exactly what they're doing. If they're going to release solo movies of each property first, and then do like an Avengers style, or Avengers style kind of team up movie. But yeah, we don't have any of that. So not having an actor or director or anything like that at this point, I still think we're months away before we even get any more on the cinematic universe. But let's take a quick time out and catch our breath. Let's field a couple questions we've got that have come in. We've kind of touched a little bit on this as far as Scott and T-Bob not being in there, and Vaughn asked us about creating a petition to bring Scott and T-Bob back into the comics. And I'm not trying to laugh, Vaughn, but to me, it seems silly at this point to create a petition for anything, because we got stuff in motion. We've seen images only, so we have no idea, like we've been saying this whole entire time, what's going to be inside and what it's going to be like once we actually get a copy in our hands. So let me throw it over to Wyatt. What do you think about Scott and T-Bob being left out, and this kind of vibe from some of the fans to petition to bring a more classic version of M.A.S.K back? to start?
Well, it would be nice to see them, as annoying as they are in the cartoon. It is kind of the staple of M.A.S.K to see them. I don't know. I'm like you. I think it's too early to go petitioning or to be doing this, that kind of request. Yes, we'd like to see them. Yes, we'd like to see a lot of our roots, I'll call it, of M.A.S.K. But we have no idea where the story is going to go. We've touched on, we don't know if there's been 50 different variants of a storyline that's been kept, scrapped, or pieced together. So I would venture to say let's hold the phone at the moment for a petition and see what, I don't know, the first 2-3 issues say, and then work from there and see if there's going to be something down the road. Because if they're going to go with this young kind of map tracker type thing, it's a fair bet Scott and T-Bob are not going to be on the map unless they use Scott and T-Bob in a whole other storyline, like maybe he's Alex's kid or maybe he's Miles Mayhem's kid, for all I know. That might be the whole storyline later on. But like I said, let's just hold out and see what happens.
Maybe we'll get a T-Bob comic with why he has a blue arm. Like they do with C-3PO. No, yeah, I'm with you 100% on that. Well, go ahead, Bill. Let me throw it over to you about Scott and T-Bob, and then just this general notion of petitioning Hasbro at this point.
I'm not really into petitioning anybody for anything because I feel like I've been doing that for a long time anyway with the website. I don't need Scott and T-Bob. As Wyatt said, if they go with this younger generation, then, as you said earlier, Jason, Wyatt would be, or Scott would be 10 or whatever, and a 10-year-old with, or a 12-year-old with a 19-year-old, 20-year-old, you don't really have that going on.
It's kind of creepy, to be honest.
Yeah, sorry, Eric, sorry. So I don't really see how that fits. The only way I would ever see anything with them is if they re-released Scott and T-Bob on a card that with the figure, the old figure. But I don't think you're going to see anything with them in the initial stages of anything. Maybe down the line if they resurrect a retro feel M.A.S.K comic, but other than that, if they're going this way, I don't think you're going to see anything.
Well, one thing that just came to mind too, the only concern I would have is, if you've watched the Avengers or some of these modern kind of comic book movies and such, they always interject a certain amount of comedy. And Scott and T-Bob were there for the comic relief, let's all be real about it. So you don't want to be too serious, I think, with this story. You want to have and interject some comedy somehow. But I don't think you need two separate characters just to do that,
Well, I mean,
that's
we
at
have
least my view. But...
Yeah, we have the concept art of what we're seeing so far, but we don't know if, Dusty was comic relief too. Dusty might be in this new comic. We don't know yet. So that aspect, yes, definitely. You need something like that.
That's another thing too. I was thinking about the other day was, are they going to do the call-ups? Because that was a certain amount of comic relief as well. Dusty dropping his pizza to head out the door, and Gloria leaving her car in the middle of an intersection to go run toward Boulder Hill. Things like that. It's almost impossible to do.
Buddy telling the old people that they can use the car over there, and it's a bicycle.
Nice, yeah.
Was there one where Alex handed off like a boa constrictor to somebody or something like that?
He gave the mop one time. Yeah. He was cleaning out the vet clinic, and the watch goes off, and he just hands the mop over, and there's a orangutan sitting there with this confused look. So there were plenty of opportunities for comedy. I agree with you, Jason. You don't need slapstick comic relief. And I think also, think about the amount of logistical time, effort, and money that you'd have to spend to have T-Bob on screen. He's not just an actor you have to cast. You have to pay a whole bunch of people a whole bunch of money to make that robot.
Right.
And I know special effects are getting cheaper, but if you're going to try to save a penny anywhere, T-Bob is probably the first to go.
Right. It's true. All right, let's grab another couple quick questions. One from Philip. We've kind of answered. He says, "Hello, my friends. I'm absolutely thrilled about IDW's new Mask and Revolution comics. What is your biggest anticipation for said comics?" Just for me personally, I want to see all these characters together and exactly what they're going to do with the Mask origin. If they are going to do this one-off and put the whole origin in that one-off comic of Revolution, or if they're going to interject that amongst the 5-issue series, so to speak. Let's throw it over to Erik. What are you most anticipated for?
Well, I got different things I'm looking for M.A.S.K versus Revolution. For me, I think for Revolution, I'm just excited. I mean, I have this overwhelming excitement in general just to see official M.A.S.K world universe coming back, and so that's probably just sort of like the overwhelming thing. But I think for me, I'm most excited to see the new vehicles, because as much as it's called M.A.S.K, I think everybody knows that it probably should have been called vehicles. You know, like when you think back to playing with M.A.S.K as a kid, most of us don't remember playing with the figures. They were there, but it was like you were playing with Condor, you were playing with Rhino,
and they were
you were
smaller
playing with
too.
Thunderhawk.
Yeah.
They were smaller, yeah, and that wasn't as much of an issue, but for me it was the vehicles, and it was transforming those vehicles. And, you know, I mentioned it earlier, is like we haven't seen or heard anything about the new style of the vehicles, so that's probably what I'm most looking forward to in the comics. I'm also hoping that at this time, you know, in the 80s, I feel like stories in general were there was a lot of formula, not to say there isn't now, but there was very rarely consequences at the end of that. And I feel like the usage of comic books and cartoons nowadays, they're taking these properties and they're giving us some much more adult stories with it.
Mm-hmm.
And stories that matter, stories that are bigger. M.A.S.K never had more than a 22-minute plot. There were no 2-parters, 3-parters, anything like that. And so the idea of seeing like a big M.A.S.K story, that's pretty cool to me. So I think that's probably, besides just, oh my god, M.A.S.K, the idea of seeing a big story where a lot of stuff happens and develops. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Very good point. Very good point. Bill?
I kind of share the same sentiments with the M.A.S.K portion of this that Erik had, but just to go quick, I really want to see how like a conversation between Cobra Commander, Megatron, and Miles Mayhem goes. You know, are they all kind of hanging out, you know, and yelling at each other? Like, how does that work for them if it's all intertwined? So, you know, it's going to be neat to see. I'm excited about, you know, seeing all the things I have in my office talk to each other, but not, you know, not me doing the talking for them. So, that I think that would be really cool.
Let me throw out there that the plot for the Revolution #2, it sounds like it almost centers around Mayhem.
Okay.
As I'm trying to scroll to it here, and my browser isn't cooperating. I just missed it. But yeah, I'm curious to see how they interact as well. Okay, here's the plot for issue #2 of Revolution. It says, Rom a murderer? That's what Optimus Prime and the Transformers think. And right or wrong, there's only one outcome. All-out war. Meanwhile, G.I. Joe turns to the one person who can save the world from ultimate destruction, Miles Mayhem. That's interesting that G.I. Joe is seeking out mayhem, you know. So it just seems like, and maybe this is just me. First of all, it just seems like my toy box is exploding all over the place. So anything is possible, and there's really no good or bad in the sense that we think there is if G.I. Joe is seeking out mayhem, and Rom, I think, who is essentially a good character, is combating a little bit with Transformers. So it's interesting how they're playing this out where there's no definitive line between good and evil. At least that's what it seems so far. I will throw it over to Wyatt, and then we'll go on to another question. What are you most anticipating out of the comics, Wyatt?
Really just more like what you said earlier, just trying to figure out what the heck they're thinking about. What is the storyline going to be? And I know that they have some headlines here, like you stated with Revolution 2, rather. I just want to see how this all plays out. Is it going to be, like Bill said, is it going to be basically the bad guys really just arguing amongst themselves who's the better? Are they going to be sitting there cursing Miles out for always going after money? Whatever it is, I just want to see what really happens. I guess that's the best way to put it. What's going to happen? That's what I'm looking for.
Cool. Well, we'll take a couple more here from Chad. He interjected a couple things. One was a comment about Matt when we were talking about him. He said Matt had nerves of steel in the cartoon. I'm not sure about an impulsive type Matt. And I thought that was a pretty good point. It would be that polar opposite change I was talking about, where Matt was the dependable person, head of the team, and now you've got Matt, and it just could be part of the origin story that he's developing into that character or that personality that we knew in the 80s. And Brandon's going to lead into that, but I thought that was an interesting take on that, having an impulsive Matt, which is Dusty.
It could also be that something happens really quickly and early on to Matt that kind of forces him to mature and grow up, and that may be giving us sort of the origins of M.A.S.K, or the start of M.A.S.K, is that Matt goes through some sort of tragedy, or I don't know the exact details, but maybe that's what we're going to see, and then we will see him kind of grow into that leadership position, as opposed to in the original series he just started in it. But we don't know why. All we know is that Matt is a charismatic Aaron Eckhart looking guy who apparently has roughly between Infinity Dollars and Infinity Plus One. Cares what happens, and he doesn't actually.
That tragedy you're talking about, I think, was already hinted at, or at least revealed, and that his father dies. So whether that has something to do with Miles Mayhem and some circumstances there, and how those two worlds kind of collide later in life, maybe that's how he's going with the story. But it's a good point that tragedy seems to be moving him into the direction, and he almost has to join M.A.S.K to rectify his life, so to speak. So interesting.
And I'm okay with that. I just don't understand. I'm really having trouble reconciling the character description with the concept of a leader. People wouldn't follow that kind of a person. They would, especially not in what I would consider to be a paramilitary or military organization. That's not really. It doesn't really make sense. So, but if it's a plot device to show his emotional, mental growth, then that could be great. I would love to see more background on Matt. I know that the episode where we hear about his father getting the crystal is like one of my favorites, because there's so little in the show of his background. To get that little tidbit that they gave us, like, yes, tell me more. Where did he come from, and why does he have all the money?
True. I
builds
I'm the same
trains
way.
in Japan and China, and I mean, he just gives people like $1 billion, and when it explodes, he just says, "I'm glad no one was hurt," and goes home. Like, how much money do you have, man?
Yeah, definitely a more finite universe than his Uncle Scrooge type safe that he goes swimming in at night next to Scott and T-Bob's bedroom. Anyway, another question, I'll pose this one to Bill, that Chad said. He says, I do like the whole Miles Mayhem Mannheim. I think a code name type thing is pretty cool. And we did notice this. I think it was in the first actual release of the comic book that they gave Miles this Mayhem nickname more than it being his last name. Bill, do you give any weight to that?
Well, if you guys, I mean, if I remember correctly, just about all the characters had a code name, even though they were never really ever said in the cartoon that much.
Right.
It
was in the comics mostly, right?
I think so, yeah.
Pretty sure. I just don't remember them offhand. But that makes sense that, a code name would exist for, somebody that's in a military organization that is trying to conceal identities. So, that makes sense. Are they going to stay true to what they had before? Probably not. I'm trying to remember.
Dusty's nickname was Powder Keg, so I think we probably won't miss that too much.
Sure.
And Bruce's was Magician, as I recall. Matt's was Hunter.
Yeah.
There were a lot of bad ones.
You don't like Powder Keg?
I'll take the fifth on that one.
He was a big powder keg, so to speak, with his personality.
Well,
Anyway.
Like a depth charge on the back of his Jeep?
Yeah.
Is that what it came from?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean...
Sure.
I don't know either.
As long as the nicknames are... Thanks for agreeing, Eric. As long as the names aren't that, yeah, I think that's okay, but... it's hard to nitpick on that, I think.
Yeah, and I just don't understand the reason why people have done that. Oh, I can't be any part of this anymore because they changed Miles Mayhem's name. I mean, come on. It's not that big of a deal, and it's not going to change or affect
He still
the
has
series
the
going
mustache.
forward. He still looks like, looks like Brian Cox or whoever the fans chose for the actor,
I'm hoping we still get the really fun dynamic between Sly and Vanessa.
Yeah.
Because
I agree.
I didn't notice it as much as a kid, but now that I'm older, when I watch the show, that's some of the best stuff in the episodes. Is the infighting between Sly and Vanessa, and it's so dry, and it's actually surprisingly witty. The way Vanessa just kind of condescends him, and Sly tries to play back, but he's like never quite in the same league, and like that stuff's really good, and I'm really hoping that we get some of that. I'm hoping that we saw those two characters in the villain preview, and I'm expecting that means they're in it, and hopefully maybe Brandon picked up some of that as well. I assume he watched a lot of episodes in the name of research, air quotes for everyone not just watching, and hopefully he picked up on that, because that really is some of like the funniest stuff in the show for me now.
Yeah. Well, I know I can speak for Wyatt. We're up to, I think, episode 45 now that we're reviewing.
Yeah.
And the T-Bob and Scott puns and jokes wear on us so quickly, and I know I look forward to Sly and Vanessa just going after each other.
Yes.
each episode, even a little bit of, we're not going to get Cliff Dagger, but some of what he does is just simple, and it's not a joke for the sake of a joke.
No.
We rarely see that from Scott and T-Bob, where it's more comedy than just a bad pun about money or whatever the theme of the episode is.
And you almost have to take a breath and brace yourself because you can feel them coming.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, here it comes. Okay. We got through it.
Yeah.
Oh. Also, I would love if we get, and I don't think we will, but the other thing is that apparently the entire animal world hates Sly Rax.
That is true. So does his
in
mother.
every
That's
episode.
beside the point.
True, but any episode in which there's an animal, it somehow bites Sly, not metaphorically, literally in the butt. And we have literally seen him come running out from behind a hill with his heart polka dot underwear showing through, because was it a polar bear or something
it was the
bit
panda
his
bears.
the pandas who bit him in the butt?
Yeah,
You
the
know,
pandas.
Pandas.
Jason's
So I
favorite
don't-
episode.
that might be too slapstick, but stuff like that is, I don't know. I didn't pick up on it as much as a kid, but now it's the stuff that I didn't get that's way funnier for me.
Yeah.
So,
All right. I'm sorry. Did you gonna say something else?
No, I mean, it just goes down to, if it's good writing, that's what's gonna matter, and some good, smart dialogue and good story, and these changes, if it's good, it's gonna stand up. And getting really riled up about changes, I don't think it's worth it.
Yeah. I agree with that. Let's do one more, and then we'll kind of wrap this thing up. Chad made another very good question here. Which characters from the original lineup of characters and vehicles are you most excited to see? Do you think we will get some new agents that weren't featured in the original comic and cartoon? Let me throw that one over to Wyatt. Would you like to see some original characters? Let's put it that way.
Obviously, I would like to see maybe one or two new originals. I don't want to overwhelm. To be overwhelmed by that, I think that they might try that. That's just my own observation. I have nothing to judge it on, but I'm really hoping that for the fans' sake and for just trying to keep M.A.S.K somewhat in line to the original, I would hope that they don't add too many new characters to the series. As far as the vehicles, obviously I'm excited to see Thunderhawk. I would love to see if Switchblade makes it. Rhino, Hurricane. I kind of want to see what they do with Piranha. For whatever reason, I'm just curious how they're going to handle Piranha. If they're going to keep it like with somehow a modern-day crotch rocket with a sidecar, or are they going to make it this three-wheeled? Like
that's what I want to see.
Now, I kind of think that that's where they're going to go. I have nothing to base it off of, but that's what I would do if I were going to switch it around. Just those are the main characters and vehicles I'd like to see. I'd really like to see what they do with the characters. I kind of, even though if they screw it up, I kind of want to see what they're going to do. Like we said with Matt's character and so forth. Just want to see what the heck I want to see what's ahead.
Yeah. I think we all are at this point. Bill, would you mind seeing some new agents? And is there one that you're most excited to see from the old cast?
Well, obviously, I mean, if they put anything new in, that'd be great. Right now we've only seen, I think, 7 concept characters total. So if they're only planning all that set and they want to add in 1 or 2 new characters each side, I'm all for that. But the one I do want to see back, I'm gonna miss Bruce if he's not in it. That's one that it's one that has to be there for me. I didn't mention it in my other article, but I was more perplexed of the character selection of Julio being in that shot first, but then as I thought about it more and more, I'm gonna miss Bruce if he's not there, and I really hope they put him in there. As far as vehicles, they better do Shark, and they better do it right. I just want to make sure that for all the years in the collect it got without getting its own toy. I want to make sure that it's there in somewhat recognizable form. The Thunderhawk I think is going to be the same, but I just want to make sure that it's featured and gets its due justice.
Well, along the lines of Bruce, if he's not there, if Alex is not there, I'm concerned we're not going to see Rhino. And
yeah,
to me as a kid, Rhino was almost the holy grail of the mask, the mask side. When it first came out, save for maybe Boulder Hill, that whole playset. But Rhino, if you had Rhino, man, you were doing pretty well. And it was more one of the higher end vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like, earmarking a Sears wish book to get that thing.
Rhino's still on the logo, the updated logo, if you really want to call that an update. So for them to not put it in the comic would just be baffling to me.
Right.
But
I'm thinking we're going to get a new logo.
Wasn't it on the new cover art, or wasn't it on that conglomeration photo?
It was.
It's on one of the. It might be on actually two of the Revolution covers.
And then there was another one that came out. It wasn't a cover. It was like just a collage of everybody fighting each other. And I think, if I remember correctly, it was on there too. That had like an updated look to it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I would imagine it's going to be in there somewhere. Maybe it's somebody else driving it.
Well, that's the thing too. Maybe Julio jumps in Rhino, the new version, or whatever. Who knows? But
yep.
We'll finish with Erik on this question. And what do you think about maybe new agents joining the team? And what are you most excited to see?
So far, all of you guys have been happy to. I don't want new agents. I think that that would be pointless. There are too many agents to draw from. The only exception is if they wanted to bring in more females to the cast, because obviously M.A.S.K had 2 women.
Right.
You had Vanessa and you had Gloria. So if you want more women, then I understand that. But you have a man for pretty much any particular demographic you want to hit. So I really don't want to see new agents. I'm okay with them tweaking them and changing their characters around, but there's no reason for it. It's pretty clear already that my favorite character, Brad Turner, is going to be in the series and have at least a decent role. He's been on the concept art for the new character designs. He's been on like 2 or 3 of the variant covers, so I'm not worried about that. My second favorite character, however, has not gotten any time yet, and that's Buddy Hawks. I always really liked him. There was something snarky about him, especially the way he would kind of jibe at Bruce. Bruce would say his stuff, and Buddy would just be like, "Oh, come on, man!" And that, I also always thought his mask was a little different. So I would love to see him show up, but I think that might be unlikely. And the vehicle I'm most excited to see is Condor. No surprise there for me. We've got some of the cover art that Tommy Lee Edwards did and some of the other variant covers, but again, I don't know how much those variant covers are really going to reflect what's going on the insides of the comics. So, as long as it's a green motorcycle, I'll probably be pretty happy.
What if it's blue?
Why though? Why?
Yeah.
It's not me. I didn't do it. I'm just saying.
I think the color scheme would be there. And I think I'm excited as far as the vehicles go. we all have in the back of our mind that Thunderhawk's going to be a new Camaro and stuff. I'm curious what they're going to do with Switchblade, because it was more or less a custom vehicle. And even Wyatt, when we wrote the script, our movie script, we used it more as one of those huge cargo, like plane/helicopter vehicles. So it's going to be interesting to me how that works in. And my favorite, as if you've listened to this podcast for
any length of time,
yeah, I like Hurricane, and this whole Fast and Furious stylized thing. I can see them going maybe retro with one of the vehicles. And I mean, really retro or classic.
They've done it in the Fast and the Furious. He's used was it old Challenger in the first one?
Charger.
Yeah.
Was it a Charger?
Yeah.
Okay, but I mean, it was a vintage car, and vintage
it was
muscle
a
cars.
Muscle car.
Vintage muscle cars with the steel frames and stuff. That would fit right into a urban assault trend. I mean, yeah. I'm with you.
Well, we're all in agreement.
Kind of
We're all in agreement, though, that we're going to boycott everything if Scott and T-Bob run in this, right?
I wouldn't count anything out at this point. Maybe Brandon's lying to us, and
it's all Scott and T-Bob.
Yeah, Matt rides T-Bob. T-Bob is the new Camaro. He talks like Kit,
Oh, no.
with that weird voice, Well,
and with that, we'll all have nightmares tonight, right?
We all will.
Yeah.
I will.
Well, one final point on that note was, we conducted a poll, I don't know, several months ago, right after the comic was announced, and we had several hundred people vote, and it was more or less, what percentage do you want to see this new comic compared to the original? And I think everybody was it was like, 100%, 75%, 50%, 25%, 0%, Most people were in the 50 to 75% range, and I think from what we've seen so far, at least with the character images, we're in that range. Again, we don't know the background to the characters yet, so maybe it will dip a little bit, but for me, I still see that happening, and we're not going to get too far removed from the classic series, moving forward. And I don't mind a new agent. I really don't. As long as that person fits well, within the story, and it doesn't feel like pushed on us or anything like that. Well, let's go ahead and wrap it up. And what I wanted to wrap up with was I think it was just a couple of days ago, we heard about these exclusives going to be released at San Diego Comic-Con for Micronauts and Visionaries. And what do you think is going to happen? Maybe give us a little prediction over the next couple of months. You think maybe we're going to get a announcement about the vehicles, maybe a new toy line, maybe some exclusives even at this year's Comic-Con that they haven't revealed yet? I know we're getting close. It's maybe like 3 weeks away, but can you see the original shark in the original red and white striped box, as a exclusive at next year's Comic-Con? Let me throw it over to Wyatt.
Well, as secretive as they've been with Comic-Cons and stuff, I'm probably the pessimist, but I don't think anything's going to be announced whatsoever. I think it's going to be yes. I think it's going to be very close-lipped, and I think it's even going to be a little close-lipped for potentially the next Comic-Con, unless they produce something this year. I mean, they are anticipating. I think the IDW's comic strip is going to be produced. This November.
Yeah.
So maybe they might do something
this November.
Yeah, maybe they might do something next year, but this year, I honestly think nothing will be said, and the only thing that's going to be mask related is going to be our old voice actors sitting there.
Oh.
And that will be it, unfortunately.
I would I would tend to agree with that. Bill?
At this year's Comic Con,
Just overall, not necessarily at this year's Comic Con, but what do you anticipate happening in the next few months? Anything? Any news?
In the next few months, I would say nothing. But I'm going to say within the next year, I'm going to have to figure out a way to add more room in my office for new items. I can see something.
I hope that's the case.
I can see something. There's too many things happening, and we had zero for 30 years other than us, and then now we have all of this happening. And if it catches on, like if the comic if the comic sells well and people are buzz about everything, of course Hasbro is going to produce something. That's just the nature of how things work. Now, whether or not it ties into the movie, the comic book series, a new cartoon, I don't know. But I definitely see within a year that I'll be expanding something. I don't know how, but I will do it. So.
Let me quickly add on to that question too. What are you guys doing when the new comics hit stores, hit online? Are you downloading? Are you buying physical copies? Are you doing both? What are you going to be doing?
Physical
copies.
Yeah.
Let's get physical.
Wyatt, I know you're not necessarily the comic collector, but
no, but I think I would still like to have the
into
nostalgia
it,
of it.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry?
I was going to say, as somebody who doesn't necessarily collect comics, are you still going to go out and get the comics at your local comic shop?
I think I will, if nothing else, to support the effort and to say we had some kind of niche in getting M.A.S.K into this progressive state because, like Bill said, it was stagnant for who knows how long.
Yeah.
And whether we had, a 0.1% influence or not, we at least had something to do with it with our fan base. And that's collectively, not just us as agents of M.A.S.K. I'm talking Boulder Hill, I'm talking Matt Tracker, I'm talking whomever else that's been really pushing for M.A.S.K to
and all the fans of the series and the toy line that back our sites. By us, I meant, small niche group.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Erik, it's up to you, bud.
That's me.
That is you.
Well, the thing is, there's two potential people to show off stuff at San Diego Comic-Con. That's IDW showing comics specifically, and then there's Hasbro showing who knows what.
My Little Pony.
Sure, actually, I think.
Yeah.
You got a new movie.
Feeling. Yeah. My guess is Hasbro's going to have nothing or next to nothing. I think it's still too early for them. As far as IDW, my guess is that they might have some blow-up pictures of the variant covers, something like that. But I think they're also going to be relatively close-lipped. I think it's just too soon. I think the buzz is building, the interest and the mystery is building, but you don't want to show your hand until you're really ready to send things out, is my guess. So I think that if you're going to San Diego, you've got a great opportunity to go talk to and listen to the original voice cast. I don't think that you're going to have an opportunity to get a peek at the stuff to come. I think we're still a little ways away from that. And as far as the comics, I am a comic book person, and I will be buying the print copies. I'll buy all the freaking variant covers, and then I'll probably also buy the digital download codes. And yeah, it's just going to be a sad, sad day for my wallet as I just ring it up, ring it up. So, yeah, I'll probably be picking up all of those, and I'm just hoping they're good. But we still have a little bit of time. I'm hoping that in between now and then, maybe we'll get a little tease of some of the interior stuff, and maybe get to see something that is a final product from Tony Vargas that tells it, hey, this is what it's going to look like. This is going to be printed. This is what to expect, and then maybe that would be something to talk about.
Yeah. I'm banking on hopefully by like maybe the end of July we get to see some vehicles, some like actual vehicles like they teased us with the characters.
Yeah.
It comes out in November, but as Revolution gets here, obviously we're going to see what's inside there, and if it matches what's going to be in the M.A.S.K series, then I would hope we'll get some teasers, more teasers, within the next month or so. But I kind of agree with you guys. I think it's early. I think maybe at the earliest we might get something, maybe at Toy Fair, which is in February, but I think we're still at least a year out as far as toys or merchandise goes. But I don't know. One thing I did want to mention, my attitude towards this is kind of like the new Ghostbusters movie, where there was a pretty crappy trailer that came out that everybody downvoted, and the newer promos and TV commercials and such for the movie make it seem a lot better. But look at the peripheral stuff that we're getting, and I'm not going to rub it in because I know you guys haven't found it yet. But
you say it.
We got
that
green drink. We've gotten those awesome.
I haven't gotten that green drink.
Well, I'm sorry. We've gotten those original 8-inch figures at Walmart. There's so much.
Tons of Lego sets too.
Yeah, Lego stuff. There's so much brought about just from this new movie that whether you like it or not, you got to be a happy Ghostbusters fan at this point. And that's the way I'm kind of approaching this. This might not exactly be the ideal thing that we imagined in our heads we would get 30 years later from M.A.S.K, but I honestly feel that Hasbro's bringing it back, and now it's kind of a part of this universe, part of this Revolution comic, and that we'll get some of this merchandise and stuff that we've been wanting for a while. A few exclusives here and there, but maybe we'll get the Mighty Mugs with Matt Tracker and all those, the classic versions and the newer versions. Stuff like that is what I'm really looking forward to. So we'll come back and we'll probably critique it once we get our hands on that first issue and really break it down, and we can actually give some honest opinions instead of trying to guess. And we'll probably do the same too, with when we finally get the movie announcements and the whole cinematic universe kind of gets revealed, which that might be a year or so from now,
or more.
Right. I've been kind of surprised because I've just within the last couple of years I've gotten into comics, and I decided, what the heck, I'm going to take a look at Micronauts, I'm going to take a look at ROM and what they've done, since they're going to be a part of the universe, and I'm going to have to know at least a little bit about them. Wasn't really impressed with Micronauts, or at least it didn't pull me in the first issue, and then ROM, I got the free comic book that they released on Comic Book Day this year. I was really impressed with ROM. It's kind of like, if you guys haven't been in it, it's more like it's like RoboCop meets Predator, or it's different. It's different. It's almost like RoboCop versus The Walking Dead.
That'd be a better movie.
I thought it was really cool, and I've actually gotten really into that series. And they've released, I think, the first 2 issues now, or maybe it's just the number 1 issue. But anyway, I'm getting kind of excited about these other properties that I don't know anything about, just for the buzz surrounding M.A.S.K being a part of this. So I've caught the bug, but I don't know. The fans are always going to be there, and they've been really great. I mean, I don't know about you guys as far as the sites and the social media goes, but there's just a lot of buzz right now amongst the faithful, I'll say. And it's been really cool to just to interact, whether you agree or disagree. You know, M.A.S.K is relevant again, and that's the coolest part of this. So we've been waiting a long time to say that.
Yes, we are.
But that's what I'm taking away from this, and you know, like I said, I'm hoping for some new stuff, new teasers here and there. But when the comics come out, yeah, I'm going to be downloading. I'm going to be going to the comic shop, and this might be the first comic that I'll actually essentially subscribe to, you know, through the local comic shop. But I'm looking forward to it. So, well, I just want to thank, before we head out of here, Vaughn and Chad, Philip, and everybody that's kind of tuned in tonight. Appreciate your questions. I know we got to some of them, but you know, we could go on for another 2 hours, and I wouldn't run out of things to say. But we all have day jobs too. So anyway, let me just give the floor back to Erik and to Bill one more time. Anything you want to add before we get out of here? Start with you, Erik.
Oh, thanks for having me on. It's always fun to talk M.A.S.K. I know it's tough to wait because it feels like now we're so close, but you know, just keep your eyes peeled, I guess, for anybody out there who's like wants to know more. Watch Facebook, watch Twitter, watch all of our websites. You know, all three of us. If one of us hasn't caught it, it probably isn't out there.
Yeah.
So
another really good resource is the Facebook groups like P&A, and there's several on toys. There's the Matt Tracker Forum. I mean, there's several M.A.S.K groups that you really need to plug into. Whether you're buying, selling, or just want some news, a lot of those, they're really active. So, Bill, any parting shots?
No, nothing that Erik hasn't already said there, but you know, I'm upset that you haven't sent Erik and I at least one can of Ecto Cooler.
Right.
So
well,
I
over
said
the last
words.
week.
So I'm just upset. That's all.
We can
Over
go
the last
halvesies
week,
on
I've-
a $100 case.
There we go. We can get 6 cans.
Over the last week, I've seen a lot of people find the juice boxes. So make sure when you're going to the store, not to just check the soda area, but check the juice box area.
I'm
I
a
was at the grocery
34-year-old
store
man.
yesterday.
I'm a 34-year-old man walking through ShopRite and Walmart. And
Excuse me, sir. Do you have any Ecto Cooler?
Trying to find IC for myself.
Listen, I was there. I was there Memorial Day when it was supposedly been, you know, released, and the Coke guy was stocking the shelves, and I said, "Excuse me, sir, do you know anything about the re-release of Ecto Cooler?" And he looked at me like I was from Pluto. He had no idea.
He had it all in his truck,
and then I had to go through this like 10-minute spiel of. It used to be this drink. It had Slimer on the box, and it was part of the Ghostbusters, and it's green, and it's awesome. And he's like, it sounds cool. I'll look into it, you know. So I was like, just Stewart? I'm not. I'm not that, you know, hardcore of going from store to store and asking Coca-Cola.
You also already have some.
But
yeah, you already have some to hoard away with your kids.
Well,
they had some, and
open up your own 80s site and start blogging, man, and then they'll send you some cool stuff like that. That's all I gotta say.
Fine, Erik. It's you and I open up our own competing website.
All right, we'll call it. I don't know. We'll have to think of a good name though.
I don't have anything offhand. Maybe Wyatt can help us too. He can get.
Rediscover the 80sucks.com.
I can help you out, but I'm kind of on hook for Jason, so it's kind of like torn.
But we can pay you in potential Ecto Cooler.
You know, I don't even remember how that stuff tastes. So for all I know, it
I don't
like,
either. That's why I want it.
I've
Yeah.
got 6 cans still left in my beer refrigerator.
I'll be
I
down
will,
whenever
I will put your names on 2 cans and send them to you if you don't find it.
I'm having no luck, so I was
And
at the
don't give me any
grocery.
BS. You better be looking. That's all I gotta say.
I was at. We have Ralph's is our grocery store. I was there yesterday, and
Okay.
I have a very, very sweet and kind and patient girlfriend. I said I need to go check the kids' juice box area, and bless her heart, she doesn't also call Chris Hansen and put me on to Catch a Predator. She understands I'm not terrible. I just want this stupid drink, and it is the most embarrassing, awkward thing to try to explain to the stocking people there. Like, do you guys have Ecto Cooler? What's that? The high C
I
juice
know.
box?
Yeah.
I know it. Well, we still got 2 weeks or 3 weeks before the movie comes out, so I'm still going to be looking, but I just will be in silence when I look. With my head down and a hat, pulled way down over my eyes.
Yeah, but you can
For
bring
the,
your kids with
security
you, though. I
cameras.
didn't even have kids to bring.
Neither do I.
They don't care, man. They don't remember this stuff. When they drank it, they're like, okay.
No, but you can bring them with you to search.
Yeah, they're like, my son really wants this. No, trust me, it's
Yeah.
my son. My son loves it. It's not me. The kid
Nice.
loves it.
I could see Wyatt going down one of those aisles with his 4-month-old in his hand. He really wants this drink. He has to try it.
Heck yeah, I would
Just
do
like
that.
baby formula, yeah.
All right. Well, Wyatt, you want to take us out of here?
Are we allowed to yet? You guys are going on a roll right now.
Yeah, I know. We might be rolling for a while.
Well, it has been an awesome time. Again, I want to thank Erik and Bill for coming online with us and chatting about the future of M.A.S.K and whatever that might entail for us. Great to have their insights as always. Also, great time chatting with my good buddy about M.A.S.K. And, like I said, we don't know what's going to happen, but we had a great part in this. In some way, we want to keep M.A.S.K alive as best as we can. So until then, until the next time, I'm Wyatt. That's Jason on the other end, and thanks for watching and listening to MASKast Chat.